I've done several videos on West Virginia locations in Fallout 76. Well, today I'm going to be doing a video on the West Virginia locations that were left out of Fallout 76. If you've ever chased a low-level character halfway across the map just to give them 25 purified water, 10 cans of dog food, and 250 rounds of 38 ammo, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. How are we doing today, ladies and gentlemen? I'm the Best Virginian. I bring you West Virginia history and travel videos from across the mountain state of West Virginia. I've done several videos on the various West Virginia locations in Fallout 76, but today I'm going to be doing the opposite. I'm going to be looking at some of the locations here in West Virginia that either weren't included in Fallout 76 or that have so much missing context to them. It's kind of a mystery why they're included in Fallout 76 at all. For those of you familiar with the game, you might recognize Blackwater Brew. It's an alcoholic beverage with, and this is according to the official Fallout wiki, a floating iceberg in black water. Well, what if I told you that's probably not an iceberg, that's probably a waterfall? Say hello to probably the most iconic waterfall in all of West Virginia. Blackwater Falls, part of Blackwater Falls State Park. If you've ever seen a West Virginian tourism ad, you're probably familiar with this natural wonder. It's right up there with the rest of West Virginia's greatest hits, including the New River Gorge, Cooper's Rock, Seneca Rock, Dolly Sods, and the Potomac and Shenandoah Rivers as seen from Maryland Heights, Maryland. But that's still a natural wonder of West Virginia. And I mean, technically that county wants to separate from Maryland anyway, so thousands of people visit Blackwater Falls State Park every year to see the falls and take in its many hiking paths. And in case you're wondering, the falls get their brownish-black color from centuries of exposure to tanninoids from decaying leaves and vegetation. Next up, we have the town of Monongah. Probably the town that most 76ers have trouble pronouncing, which I know what you're thinking, but Best Virginian, Monongah is in Fallout 76, which yes, it absolutely is, but very little of the town's actual history is in Fallout 76. And Monongah played a major role, not just in West Virginia history, but also the labor and mine movement really for the entire United States. The official report, which I did an entire video on, which I'll put a link to up here, places the death toll at 362 individuals. That is a minimum of 362 individuals killed in a single mining accident in a single day, and there's absolutely no mention of this in Fallout 76. The town of Monongah actually has 3 separate monuments dedicated to the victims of the mine disaster. You have the Monongah Mine Memorial Bell that was forged by the same company that make bells for the Vatican and donated by the region of Molise to honor the Italian immigrants from southern Italy that lost their lives in the disaster. You also have the Monongah Heroine Monument, which is dedicated to all the mothers and wives that lost husbands, sons, fathers in the Monongah mine disaster. And lastly, at the Mount Calvary Cemetery, where many of the victims of the mine disaster are buried, there is a monument that was donated by the government of Italy in 2007. It's weird how an event that played such a major role in the United States labor movement, and really one of the first events that kicked off what would eventually be the Battle of Blair Mountain, are just not mentioned in Fallout 76. And in general, there are a lot of monuments that are actually missing from Fallout 76. I don't know if this was a weird, like, rights management thing. For example, in Morgantown, there is a statue of the famous actor Don Knotts, not included in Fallout 76, and there is a statue of Abraham Lincoln called Lincoln Walks at Midnight that should be at the Capitol complex in Fallout 76 that just isn't there. And we know Bethesda has assets of Abraham Lincoln. He was in Fallout 3. Just import those over. going on to another place that is known for having a monument in-game, the city of Philippi, West Virginia, which kind of appears in the game, but not really. Yes, Philippi Battlefield Cemetery and Museum does appear in Fallout 76. The rest of the town, not so much. Philippi is credited for being the site of one of the first skirmishes of the American Civil War. And yes, there is a museum in Philippi, West Virginia, but they left much more out of the game. For example, one of the longest covered bridges in West Virginia. The museum in game is a large two-story building filled with all types of Civil War antiquities. The actual Philippi Museum is an old train depot full of Civil War antiquities, local veteran antiquities from various wars, a flood memorial wall for the flood of 1985, a large wax statue of Philippi native Ted Cassidy, who is most well known for his portrayal of Lurch in the Addams Family, and the Philippi mummies that I did an entire video on. Yes, actual mummies made by a resident of Philippi, West Virginia, and a marker near the spot where the founder of Hanger Prosthetics, a company that is still a major United States supplier of prosthetic limbs, had one of his legs unsalvageably mangled by a cannonball during the Battle of Philippi. Yes, Philippi has a lot of major history, the vast majority of which is just completely left out of Fallout 76. For reasons I do not know. And their courthouse looks like a giant castle fortress. Look at it. Look at it. Now, this entire video was inspired by a group of threads where it was questioned if people would be interested in adding new locations to parts of the map in Fallout 76 and what locations they would like to see added. And overwhelmingly, a lot of people mention towns in the Ohio River Valley. Because let's be honest, besides Point Pleasant, there's really not a whole lot of other Ohio Valley towns included in Fallout 76. There's no Parkersburg, there's no Huntington, there's no Wheeling, which is the next topic we're going to talk about. Why Wheeling, West Virginia should probably be part of Fallout 76. Wheeling was the original capital of West Virginia, and so much of West Virginia history goes back to this initial West Virginia capital. Yeah, before Charleston was the capital of West Virginia, it was in Wheeling, but then it went to Charleston, and then lobbyists complained about how hard it was to get to Charleston in the days before the railroad had fully expanded into the southern part of West Virginia, so they moved it back to Wheeling for a bit, and now you have all these buildings in Wheeling that have Capitol in their name, and it makes no sense because Capitol hasn't been there for several years, like 100+ years at this point. And if you'd like to see me do a video on how well Fallout 76 explores political and corporate corruption in the Mountain State, let me know down in the comments, because oh boy, did they get a lot right. Like, I have a hard time believing that they got as much right as they did. Like, I don't think it was on purpose. I think they went, yeah, let's take political and corporate corruption and rev it up to 10 because that's kind of the Fallout way of doing things. But no, they really hit the nail on the head on a lot of these topics. So if you'd like to hear me talk, again, about some of the events that led up to the Battle of Blair Mountain, the Buffalo Creek disaster, again, just let me know down in the comments. That is a topic I would love to look into and research, because they got a whole lot right when they made Fallout 76. Wheeling is where West Virginia first broke away from Virginia and became its own state. Wheeling was once the industrial hub of the western counties of Virginia, and ultimately had more in common with Pittsburgh than Richmond. Richmond, at that point, Wheeling and Richmond were kind of twin cities. One super industrialized, the other, super agrarian. Those two economies made Virginia super powerful, but it also drove a very strong division in between what are now two different states. I always thought it would be kind of neat in Fallout 76 if Wheeling would be a city and there'd be two rival factions, one believing they control the whole state because they control the capital in Charleston, and other believing they control the whole state because, well, this history book here says that Wheeling was the capital and we are controlling Wheeling, and they kind of just fight back and forth with each other. I hope you learned something new today. If you did, make sure you leave a like on this video, comment if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, or if there's any other Fallout 76 West Virginia related topics you would like for me to talk about. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. Again, I typically bring you West Virginia history and travel videos, but occasionally I like doing these dives into video game tourism, into Fallout 76 West Virginia lore. And while you're at it, check out some other videos. They'll be popping up right around here right about now. But until next time, don't forget to stay wild, stay wonderful, and I'll talk to you later.